You are listening to the ReRACEables Podcast. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the ReRACEables Podcast, episode 60, season 35, episode 2. I am luckily here with two of my favorite people, Josh and Nicole. Welcome in, folks. Welcome back again.
Thank you. Hello.
Well, please allow me, if you would, an opportunity to take a second Jocelyn and victory lap. Jocelyn and you see what I did there? Jocelyn and Victor, team number one, my number one team, second straight win. I hate to say I told you so, but I guess I told you so, at least for the moment. It feels like this lap, a leg of the race, was designed to make them win.
Yes, which means that it's only downhill from here for them. They're not going to be able to speak Taiwanese in any other country. There's not going to be another food store race. That's it for them.
Yeah, so literally, they're in a country, Thailand, which is a similar language to what Victor speaks. Lao, I guess, is the name of Laos's official language. That was something I learned. Then literally the detour they can choose is literally going to a grocery store, which they own one.
Guy's been using a hand truck since he was 13.
It couldn't have been more in their favor. So it was like, you know, if you have the best team and the best players and the best everything in the situation, you have a home game and your crowd is there and cheering you, like, you have to win. You have to come in first, and they did. Credit to them.
Did. He even said, or she said, our entire lives have culminated to this one leg of the race.
Shout out to Jocelyn and Victor, Team Retail Love. Congratulations on making me look good again for a second straight week here on the ReRACEables Podcast. I forever thank you.
They love retail.
They love it. So do I. And allow me to take a second victory lap here, if I could, because not only did I get the number one team now twice, but I also got rid of my number 13 ranked team in Elizabeth and Iliana, who finished 12th last leg, should have been 13th.
Yeah.
Was this shocking? Was this expected? What were your thoughts on seeing them being ousted in leg 2, Josh?
I also had them ranked pretty low. I think that they weren't the strongest team left. I think it was only a matter of time before they went.
Yeah, it was expected. I agree. This seems like the right timing for them to go.
And I think it really was too, to build on that. They never were ahead. They never were in the front. They were always dead last or playing catch up behind. I thought that also in the detour, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but in the detour, they had trouble communicating. It didn't seem like they really understood the whole phonetic spelling of the grocery list, which they didn't even mean to go to, by the way. That's a whole other issue. But it really felt also like Iliana, the daughter, was really the leader, but she was kind of deferring to the mom. But it seemed like Iliana was the one who really should have been leading the whole time. They were lucky to even get out of there when the little market lady, whoever that was, kind of bailed them out with their trouble communicating. They were trouble communicating with each other, trouble communicating in the market. They were a hot mess, a disaster, and I don't think they ever really had a chance.
And I typically talk about this concept of watching teams consecutively foreshadow their future. I think last week we saw them when they were outside the massage parlor, and they were saying, "What are we doing? Should we go somewhere else? All the seats are full." and they didn't quite have a united front. They didn't communicate well, and we foresaw what was going to happen this episode. So I think that's why there isn't much surprise in our end that they were eliminated this week.
So we say goodbye to Elizabeth and Iliana. We say hello to some better standings for me in the power rankings. Thank you for that deletion of 13. That's a big number to get off the board. Let's just look at big picture here to start. What's your major takeaway from this leg? Now,
I am jazzed about bringing true classic Amazing Race back, baby. We're getting lost in taxis. We're at stunning locations. We have market drama. Who doesn't love market drama? We have incredible cutaways, right? Didn't we get earlier in the episode? We heard Lena loves flowers, and then juxtaposed halfway through the screen, we see Lena just wanting to throw up and not wanting to be around flowers. That true classic Amazing Race editing. I love it. I'm so glad this is back. I'm so glad 90 Minutes is here. It's such a thrill to be back watching Amazing Race live.
Nicole, major
I
takeaway.
agree with all that Josh just said. He hit the nail on the head.
And I think they're going for that at CBS with Survivor being 90 minutes, followed by Amazing Race 90 minutes. Survivor had a return of the main titles for 45. That was a big deal. People really care about that. People were dying to see that. They also had the previously on Survivor.
Yes.
Previously on The Amazing Race.
Yep.
That simple recap that's been 86th to jam as much as they could of the actual race or the actual show in Survivor. Tribalcouncilblog.com. Check out the blog for the first 2 weeks. Tribalcouncilblog.com. Tribalcouncilblog.com. Subscribe, like, follow, subscribe. But those little throwbacks, I think, are scratching an itch for a lot of people watching the show. Huge demographic of Survivor and Amazing Race fans, like there would be after 35 and 45 seasons, that some 40 seconds of a previously on is a big deal and people love it.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of helpful, especially when you're not binge watching like you would if you were watching season 12 coming soon, ReRACEables Podcast. Stay tuned for that. So a lot of good there. And I'm just going to, Nicole, but what was your major takeaway? Let's go back to that.
The attention to detail was crucial in this episode. During the Lotus challenge, they really, some of them got it pretty quickly, but some of them needed 15, 16 attempts. And if you didn't see what you were doing wrong, then they're reduced to begging this expert to please let them through.
We're gonna get to that expert in a little bit, but
she was quite the expert.
I'll finish the major takeaways with this, and this goes back to a little bit of what Josh said with the old school Amazing Race. Now that we're back to the airports and we're also back to not everybody starting at the same time, departure times were dictated, I felt like, the whole leg. You had Jocelyn and Victor departed at 8:28 a.m., Rob and Corey 8:34, John and Greg 8:44, Morgan and Lena 8:55, Todd and Ashley 9:01. Then the next group literally was an hour and 20 minutes later.
Wow.
And then Steve, 10:23. Joel and Garrett, 10:28. Liam and Jeremy, 10:36. Joe and Ian, 10:39. Team Philly Johns, 10:44. Elizabeth Iliana. Robin and Chelsea, 10:45. Elizabeth Iliana, 11:09. 2 hours and 40 minutes later. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
Like the front of the pack has a 2-hour lead on the back of the pack. And that's why you see literally only Liam and Jeremy kind of move out of that back of the pack. Joe and Ian move out of the back of the pack. And we see, the moms. We saw Elizabeth Iliana and Team Philly Johns kind of stay in the back of the pack. And I felt like departure times combined with, again, teams we didn't think would be strong to begin with, them also being in the back of the pack, departure times being different for everybody, huge.
But next week, in the coming attractions, it seems like there might be a leveler with flights getting delayed. So maybe teams will then all catch up to each other, or who knows?
Old school, amazing race. The airport, departure times, flight delays. Please let Jocelyn and Victor not go home. That teaser really scared me. We're not going to talk about that. Just a quick note from the beginning also, before we kind of move into the roadblock. The express pass, we got a little more clarity on that.
Yes, important.
Right? The express pass, you get to skip one task. Morgan and Lena have it from eating all the bugs, including the 4-inch spider tarantula. But you have to use it by the end of leg 4. Like, when is the ideal time to use it?
I think you hold on to it until either you have difficulty with something, or leg 4, if you haven't used it yet, you're using it leg 4 to get ahead.
So it's either a struggle in leg 3 and you just bail yourself out, or you have to use it in leg 4.
Yeah.
Josh, your thoughts on having to use the express pass by leg 4 and not being able to just sit on it for the whole race? Because we didn't know that until they explained it.
Yeah, I mean, that is a huge leapfrog in any challenge at any point. I think I don't know. I think it's probably good for the viewer watching the game. They also only ate some bugs earlier in the season. It's not like it was this amazing feat that they had to go out of their way for, and it took all of their time. So I do like that it's not going to heavily impact the game. But it makes me more excited to see, like, is there going to be another express pass after leg 4? And then are we going to have one that brings you down to another point? So yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes. I really like that it's a storyline, an arc that we can continue to like be thinking about, and not just something that you have to just watch by episode. More gameplay is always more exciting for me as particular.
And I like how too there's an end to that storyline, and it's leg 4.
Yeah.
Or in next episode, it's going to be one or the other. And you're right, Josh. Like, it's nice to know that, will there be another one? Will there be some other twist? Maybe that's when the U-turn with the vote comes in. Maybe that's kind of what will be after that, and kind of if the first 4 legs is the first third, and then the next third will be the U-turn, and then the final third, maybe there won't be a twist or maybe a yield. We'll see.
Oh, interesting.
But let's go to the roadblock. Who has a green thumb? Nicole, you talked about it. You had to pick 10 bulbs or 2 bundles of 10 bulbs. You had to put them of lotus, locust or lotus?
Lotus.
Lotus. Like,
yes. White Lotus.
Is anybody else humming that in their head?
No.
Maybe they'll go there for season 3 of White Lotus. Just jump out into the catfish-ridden muddy waters there. I don't think so. So you had to get them. You had to wrap them into 3-4-3. You had to wrap them in these leaves. You had to tie them with bamboo. And everybody sucked at this.
Yeah.
Jocelyn, it took 12 times. Rob, 5 times. Ashley, 15 times. Steve, 12 times. Ian, 5 times. Milena, 11 times. Jeremy, 4 times. Ian, 5. I said that already. And Greg was, I think, the best with 2 times. The one brother who was learning from everyone else's failure and just kind of overhearing it. What did you make of this? Like, why was this so tough?
There's just so many components, I guess. They had to make sure that they were buds and not blooming. They had to have the right formation. They had to make sure the leaves were tied correctly. They're just, I don't know.
Yeah, Jocelyn made an interesting point. She was saying, I just didn't think it was going to be this attention to detail focus, because there are some challenges on the Amazing Race where it's like just grab a bundle of this and head out. It's not quite so many tasks that have to be so aligned. But yeah, it was difficult for every one of them.
And I think the most difficult part was two different mental hurdles. Number one, you walk up to this beautiful yet really intimidating scene where it's just this muddy water lake. Is it a lake? What is this? It's mud. There's fish. Things are swimming into me. I have to walk through this. You're losing sneakers. You're like throwing yourself into this murky water. But then on top of it, everybody sucked at it.
Yeah.
If you were in the later pack, you had to go further into the field to get them. Like, what's the mental approach that you have to take to kind of first overcome the fear of getting in the water and in the mud, but also then once you start failing? I don't know about you, but like it would be really tough to just jump into that water and just start going at it. No?
I mean, I would be grossed out, but I don't think. You think it's scary because there's fish?
I think so. I mean, what the hell is in this water? It's I don't know. There's something unsettling about it. Am I way off here, Josh?
I think you are. One thing I really loved that Amanda said was, I've been knee deep in baby poop. This ain't nothing. So I actually don't think that this challenge was a matter of like being afraid of where to start, what goes on, what do you do? But I think it took a toll on them. There was so much detail. And Amanda did say that like she can easily get caught up in her emotions. Can she like have the fortitude within her to keep going? And Jocelyn was talking about how these leaves were so brittle that after a few times of tying it, they would fall apart and disintegrate, and you would have to go back into the water and get more leaves. It just took a toll on you that it kind of showed everyone's true sides that I thought was really valuable as a viewer.
Yeah, and fail at anything 15 times.
Yeah.
$1 billion on the line, and teams are coming and passing you, and you're losing ground in the race. I mean, I think that's definitely the harder part. I thought the murky water was a little bit tougher and the whole.
I think to me what was concerning was when people were losing shoes, and then like, all right, if you lose a shoe, what are you doing the rest of the race?
Right, because is it their shoe or is it like some shoe that they're given?
True.
It seemed like their own shoes.
I don't. It looked like they were wearing like a water shoe that was. It was probably given to them, right?
Because they were given gloves too.
Yeah. I mean, that would be.
Can I call out something that I thought was interesting? There were a few, I guess, insights that made me a bit more intrigued about teams. I said that about Amanda already. I don't know if you noticed, Joe and sorry, Ashley. Oh, I called her Amanda. I'm sorry. Sorry, Ashley. One thing that I was really intrigued by is we cut to Joe and Ian, and they had a compass with them, and they were talking about traveling southeast or southwest, and they it's just that kind of that level of upping that made me a bit more intrigued from being a lower team to being a higher team. I was also really intrigued by Greg and John. They are a strong team. They had the taxi driver drove them to the wrong area, and they said that we're software engineers. We pay attention to details. Our every day is solving issues. How do we stay on track and keep going? And even they showed that they were a long team when they got there and leapfrogged 3 teams because he was able to be aware and listen to all of the issues with everyone else and make that jump to do it. So those were a few insights that I thought that this simple challenge actually brought about that I thought was interesting.
And I wonder, like, at what point other strategies have to kind of take hold, because was that the most difficult or stingy expert in the history of the Amazing Race?
Perhaps. Yes.
I mean, that little old woman was like just beating people down. I mean, silent killer, no words, just
Ruthless.
just looks of disdain and disgust at how pathetic all these people were at her work. Just unable to just get it together.
Does
But
not accept a pound it.
no,
hilarious. Hilarious. Just showcasing that culture barrier. I thought that was so interesting.
Right. Like she's like, don't touch me, Greg. What are you, out of your mind?
Can I also bring about I think for people who can speak, I think it is maddening when you like show something to someone and they don't give any response back. I wonder if that was where like Rob and Corey were starting to show their edge. You know, he kind of showed them and he didn't need to use words. He was able to understand and be keenly aware and just go back to his task and get it done. I think that's another insight into this communication style that is actually benefiting them thus far.
I love that part too. Totally picked up on it. All he had to do was go, thank you, with his mouth. He didn't need to actually say anything.
Yeah.
In fact, because he couldn't say anything, maybe it even helped him even that much more. But one player that did say something was, I think it was Milena for Team Philly Jones. She basically, it was her and it was Robin of the stay-at-home moms left at the Roadblock. And the Philly team, they just started begging. Like, at what point she was on attempt number 11. Like, at what point are you just doing, you're writing the woman, even though she's the stingiest expert in the history of the race, like, please, I'm begging you, like, I'm being emotional and I'm being big with my pleading with you and using body language to communicate how desperate I am. Am I overthinking that, or is that a totally legit strategy?
Yeah, it is.
It's a poor one, though. I think it's foreshadowing lack of competence later on.
Agreed. Let's move on towards that, even more of the struggles. We get to then the detour time, stock up or scoop up. Stock up being get the phonetic grocery list, pick up the list in the market and deliver it to the restaurant, versus scooping up a boat full, 5 baskets, buckets, massive buckets, whatever, full of pomelos, which is the food / fruit of this particular area of Thailand. 2 teams really chose the stock up. 2 were kind of forced there because the taxi mistake. And then the other 7 teams chose the scoop up and went with the scoop up and actually completed it. Was there one that stood out more to you guys as the obvious choice?
Never go to the market. Don't do the market. Always communication issues, always points of failure. Things are going to go wrong. Do the challenge that you have to just fill up your boat with these things and get rid of them. That's the one you got to do every single time. Don't do the damn market.
Nicole?
I disagree. I personally would have done the market. Tom would have been working the hand truck. I would be working the phonetic pronunciations. I think I would have done very well with.
You must be a speech therapist or something.
I must be. And it's all right there. You don't have to get in a boat. You don't have to worry about your boat tipping over. You don't have to worry about what is a pomelo even. How big is it? Can I carry it? Are they too heavy? There's none of that because people didn't know what the fruit was even. So I think market, straightforward. You have your list. It's not even like you have to read a different language. Like you just read it as it's written. That's it. Just follow directions.
If I have to break the tie here, it's tough because you're both making good points, right? And I think we saw some success in each. Obviously, we mentioned earlier, Jocelyn and Victor were literally, it seems like they were on the producer team that put this race together. I mean, they work in a grocery store, they own a grocery store, they spoke a language that was similar enough. Todd and Ashley kind of showed, I'd say, the cultural side of doing the stock up, where you're actually communicating with local people, and they kind of leaned into that. And they at least nothing else. Like, yeah, they came in fifth this leg, but I feel like they took away a connection with the people they met in the market, which is cool too. But on the other hand, Rob and Corey, Greg and John, Morgan and Lena, even Steve and Anna, who kind of surprised me and are, I don't know, more impressive than I think we all thought for sure. They were our overall lowest ranked team if we averaged it all out. I mean, even despite sinking their boat because they overloaded it too much. It was still like easy to bounce back from because you're in this little canal and it was waist deep water and the pomelos were just kind of sitting there. I think hindsight's 2020, but I think it would have depended on who my partner was, and I probably would have advocated for scoop up because of what you said, Josh. But I think if Nicole's my partner, we'd probably go stock up and rely on her speech expertise.
That's fair. Or a grocery shop manager.
Or yeah, right. Or if
yeah.
if that's the case. Did we let me just stay on Steve and Anna Lee for a second. Did we underestimate them? What did we get wrong on them? There's 2 straight team number 6s right in the middle of the pack.
We did underestimate them. I think she takes more of a leadership role and he follows suit. And that works for them. Or at least it's working so far.
I think there's a lot of trust there. And I think Steve, I thought he was going to be more panicky, more can't handle, being a fish out of water, essentially.
Yeah.
Anna is the lead dog of the two. And Dad he's in the back of the boat working the stick. They sink. He says, all right, now I take over. We're going to pull the thing up. We're going to pull it back. Ready? Boom. And they pull it back. Then boom, boom, boom. It just seemed like they have good communication, and ultimately they kind of know what their strengths are for sure. And he lets her take the lead and he trusts her. And that's going to get you 6th place twice.
And I want to add that in their interview for why they thought they were going to win, that's exactly what they said. They said, we know what makes each other tick, and we balance each other. And I think, I underestimated Steve, especially in his. I thought he was going to be a bit stronger headed. He's from the South. Maybe he is believes more in the stronger male role, but he is very okay taking the backseat to his daughter and stepping up when he needs to. I would like to note that we haven't really had many physical challenges yet. A lot of these challenges have been attention to detail and problem solving, and also just traveling, just making it through. And I think that when you look at those strengths, there's no surprise that Greg and John and Victor and Jocelyn are at the top, because we've always seen them as very detail oriented. But I think especially my placing between Victor and Jocelyn was their lack of physical ability. And same thing with Corey and Rob. But we haven't had those types of challenges yet. So to me, it is no surprise that 2 military veterans, Liam and Jeremy, are in the middle to back of the pack.
And same thing with Joe and Ian, both physically fit guys from the
exactly
the whole story.
Exactly.
No real surprise though, I feel, with the bottom teams being Joel and Garrett, Milena, Andrea, Robin, and Chelsea. I don't think that should come as some surprise. I think we all pretty much had them relatively low ranked. This is the guys from Boise, the older women from Philly, like they're city people through and through. They really revealed a lot in the market when they're having trouble communicating with people. We need to find somebody who speaks English. Like those kind of panicky things, though, they did dig themselves out of it. And then Robin and Chelsea, the attention to detail they lost out on in the Roadblock. But
I think they actually did pretty well with the Pomelos.
But I think if they would have got dropped off like Philly Johns and Elizabeth and Iliana in the wrong one at the market, I think they would have struggled probably a little bit more and maybe even came in last this leg of the race. So before we get to the power rankings, just a reminder to go to tribalcouncilblog.com. Be sure to follow along with reading my blog for Survivor 45 all season long. You can also find all of our ReRACEables podcasts there, as well as on our YouTube channel. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on Instagram and YouTube. Appreciate the support. Who's ready to cross the finish line?
I'm ready.
Nicole, start us off. Go ahead.
I made a discovery. Either Joel or Garrett. Which is the one with mustache?
Joel. Oh, the mustache is Garrett.
Garrett. Okay. Garrett is Ted Lasso. When he made the comment, well, that hurt like a foot or something like that. It was just such a Ted Lasso type of humor comment. Oh no, it was a pain in the foot. And it just I chuckled. It was funny and like he's just this like happy-go-lucky guy, just like Ted Lasso.
Crossing the finish line, The Amazing Race season 35 cast is way better than the cast of Survivor season 45. Ooh. I love all of these people. I feel so connected with all of them. Even the teams that are getting eliminated, I'm already sad that they're gone. I'm so invested. That teaser for next week got me amped. Is the team that's in first place, they're now in last place. We're seeing flight delays, airport stress. Come on, all you Survivor people who put off Amazing Race, come back to Amazing Race. It is so, so good. And keep watching Survivor. Keep watching both. CBS is jam-packed this season. I'm just...
Do you work for CBS?
Get this man a job there. I agree. I was so happy with The Amazing Race last week after the ridiculous total waste that was Hannah quitting Survivor 45. Absolutely disgusting, horrendousness. And then this week, Brandon, the crybaby guy from Survivor 45, who is just not meant to be anything other than a fan on the couch watching the show. So glad he got voted out. Spoiler alert. If you don't even have to go back and watch it. Just be happy that phase of the game is over. You're right, Josh. 45, Survivor 45, not as hot a start as Amazing Race 35. But I will cross the finish line with this. I'm really nervous about Jocelyn and Victor. I took my Jocelyn and Victor lap, and I'm hoping that the editing, which is so superb all the time with The Amazing Race, is doing exactly that and just teasing and stressing me and all the Team Retail Love fans out there to come back next week to set their DVRs for 9:30 CBS, add The Amazing Race to your queued up recordings, because Team Retail Love, Lavender Team, makes the show better. We cannot lose them. We cannot lose them. Shout out Jocelyn. Shout out Victor. Shout out 2 straight first places. Shout out, I hope this is not like season 11 All-Stars with Robin Amber, 3 straight first places, and then out the door they went. Before we say goodbye, let's just update our power rankings. which took quite a turn from last week's initial rankings. So we cross off Elizabeth and Iliana. And for Tom, his 13 points gets deducted. I just like to remind you all of that, which brings me to 76, Josh to 70, Cole to 80. So that puts Josh still in first place with 70. I do make up some ground on him and go from last place to second place with a low of 76 points. And Nicole is right there in third with 80. Big numbers off the board, a 13 for me, an 11 for Josh, and middle ground 6 for Nicole. But make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. Check out tribalcouncilblog.com for all Survivor 45 content. It's got to get better, folks. It's got to get better because it started off worse. I hope that the Amazing Race will continue to build on this momentum. 90-minute episodes, jam-packed Wednesday nights, jam-packed content at tribalcouncilblog.com. For Nicole, for Josh, I'm your host, Tom. Thank you for being with us here on the ReRACEables Podcast. We will see you next week.